A young woman, wealthy and well-dressed, walks into a small cafe nestled in a quiet corner of the city. She glances around with a slight frown, clearly unimpressed by the humble decor. The walls, decorated with vintage photos and hand-painted artwork, are not the kind of environment she's used to. She prefers high-end restaurants, where everything feels polished and extravagant. As she walks in, the scent of freshly brewed coffee and baked pastries fills the air, but she hardly seems to notice. Her eyes scan the room with a look of mild disdain. The cafe isn't crowded, just a few locals sipping their drinks, lost in conversation or staring at their phones. Among them is a woman working behind the counter, an older woman, a little tired from the daily grind, yet with a calm, gentle smile on her face. She's seen it all, the grumpy customers, the ones who throw their money around like it means everything, and the others who come in for a moment of peace. She doesn't let it affect her. She's just doing her job. As the young woman walks to a table near the window, the server greets her with a polite smile, asking if she'd like a menu. The wealthy woman barely looks up. "I'll have the usual," she says sharply, her tone carrying a hint of impatience. The server nods and moves to place the order, unfazed by the rude manner. The wealthy woman settles into her chair, still scanning the cafe, this time with an air of superiority. She pulls out her phone, scrolling through her social media feeds, completely ignoring the small cafe around her. She takes no notice of the elderly man sitting in the corner, who is lost in his newspaper, or the young couple sharing a quiet conversation. When the food arrives, she takes a look at it, scrunching, her face in distaste. "This is what you call fine dining," she mutters, almost to herself, though loud enough for the server to hear. "I expected better for the price," she adds, her voice dripping with entitlement. She picks up her fork, twirling it as if she's too good to touch her own food. The server, who's worked in this cafe for years, has seen all kinds of customers. She's learned to let it roll off her back. It's not her first time encountering someone like this, someone who thinks their wealth makes them superior to everyone around them. Yet, she doesn't let it show. With a smile, she politely offers to bring something else if the food isn't to her liking. But the wealthy woman shakes her head and waves her off dismissively. Despite the rudeness, the server doesn't react. She simply walks away, her calm demeanor unshaken. It's clear she's not new to the game of being treated poorly by people who don't understand the value of kindness. She's just doing her job, and she's good at it. But deep down, the woman can't help but feel a twinge of sadness. The attitude of the young woman makes her wonder what happened in her life to make her so cold. The young woman continues to sit, her eyes flicking between her phone and the room around her, clearly disconnected from everything that's happening. She picks up her fork again, poking at her food with no real interest. The food, freshly made and carefully plated, is far from bad, but she barely seems to notice. She's too busy scrolling through her social media, looking at photos of herself in exotic locations, her life filled with luxury and beauty that most people only dream of. She sighs as she taps through endless updates, not even sparing a glance at the cafe's peaceful atmosphere. The server comes back to check if everything is all right, her face still kind and patient, though she can feel the tension in the air. Without waiting for the server to say anything, the young woman speaks up, again, her words sharp. "This place really needs some upgrades," she says, her tone dismissive as she gestures around the room. "The whole vibe is outdated. You should really consider remodeling or something." The server's smile doesn't falter. She's heard this before. The cafe isn't fancy or trendy, but it's her home, and she takes pride in it. Still, she doesn't argue. She simply nods and offers to get something else if the customer isn't satisfied. But instead of thanking her or showing any appreciation, the young woman looks at her watch, clearly annoyed by the length of time it's taking to get her perfect meal. She takes a bite, chewing slowly, then sets her fork down. "It's fine, I guess," she says, but her tone suggests she's still not impressed. "It's not terrible, just not what I expected." She leans back in her chair, crossing her arms in front of her. The server, who has been working here for years, watches quietly. There's something about the way the young woman carries herself that bothers her. Maybe it's the air of superiority, or the way she seems so quick to judge people who don't fit into her world. The server has met people like her before. People who think money makes them better, who believe that they deserve special treatment because they have more than others. But she knows that her job isn't to challenge those beliefs. It's to provide a service, to make people feel welcome, no matter how they behave. As the young woman continues to sit, checking her phone and making the occasional comment, the server can't help but think about what kind of person someone must be to think that they can treat others so poorly. It's not that the young woman is outright rude. She's just dismissive, ungrateful, and unaware of the impact of her words. The server quietly hopes that one day the young woman will understand what it means to treat others with kindness and respect. Until then, she'll continue doing her job, offering the best service she can, no matter how her customers behave. As the young woman continues to eat, still lost in her phone, a man walks into the cafe. He's dressed simply, with a worn jacket and a calm expression. He doesn't look like he's in a hurry, and he doesn't seem to care about appearances. Unlike the young woman, he doesn't scan the room with judgment. Instead, he quietly observes the space, as if taking it all in. He sits at the bar, orders a coffee, and glances at the menu hanging on the wall. The man seems completely at ease, and his presence is quiet but comforting. Unlike the woman, he doesn't sit with a sense of entitlement, nor does he have a scornful attitude. The cafe's familiar warmth wraps around him, and he simply enjoys the moment, taking in the sounds of the coffee machine, the chatter of the patrons, and the soft hum of the music in the background. He's not interested in standing out or impressing anyone, but there's something about him that feels different, like he's at peace with the world. He notices the tension in the air, especially between the young woman and the server. He can see the server's calm professionalism and the way the woman keeps to herself, her eyes never leaving her phone. It doesn't take long for him to realize what's happening. A customer who thinks her wealth entitles her to treat others poorly, and a waitress who refuses to let it affect her. The man doesn't intervene immediately, but instead, he quietly asks the bartender if there's a guitar backstage. The bartender is a little taken aback by the question, but nods and says, "Yeah, there's an old one back there. Why?" Without a word, the man simply asks, "Could I borrow it for a while?" He gets up, walks to the back of the cafe, and soon returns holding a guitar. His presence is still unassuming, but the atmosphere in the cafe shifts as he sits down and begins tuning the instrument. The sound of the strings as they're adjusted fills the air, and slowly, people begin to take notice. The young woman glances up briefly, intrigued by the sound but not fully aware of what's happening. Then he starts playing. The melody is soft at first, simple yet powerful. The man's fingers glide across the strings with ease, and the sound that fills the space is gentle, like a breeze that flows through an open window. It's not a loud performance. It's not meant to steal the spotlight. It's just music, pure and unpretentious, drifting through the cafe like a quiet wave. The young woman, who had been so absorbed in her phone and thoughts, finds herself slowly drawn into the melody. Her eyes lift from the screen, and for the first time since entering the cafe, she begins to truly listen. The music is calming, almost soothing, and it has a way of quieting her mind. She's no longer focused on her food or the discomfort she felt when she first walked in. Instead, she's caught up in the simplicity of the tune, her defenses lowering without her realizing it. The man continues to play, the notes weaving together like a story being told without words. The quiet hum of the cafe seems to fade into the background as his music takes center stage. Everyone in the room, even the young woman, can't help but listen. There's something about the music that brings people together, bridging the gap between the world of wealth and the world of simplicity. It's a reminder that sometimes all it takes is a few notes to change the atmosphere, to create a connection, and to make people stop and reflect. As the last note hangs in the air, A, Calm silence fills the cafe. For a moment, nothing else matters. The music hangs in the air for a moment, and it feels like time has slowed down. The atmosphere in the cafe is different now. The tense energy that had been in the room is gone, replaced by a quiet calm. People who had been busy with their own little worlds, focused on their food or their phones, are now sitting a little straighter, paying attention to the sound that has suddenly filled the space. Even the young woman, who had been so absorbed in her phone earlier, finds herself watching the man as he plays. The calmness in his movements, the way his fingers glide effortlessly over the guitar strings, creates a kind of magic that she's not used to. For once, she's not thinking about how things could be better, how she could be elsewhere, or how everything around her doesn't meet her high standards. Instead, she's simply listening, and for that brief moment, she's at peace. The man doesn't play for long, but the few minutes he spends strumming the guitar are enough to leave an impact. He doesn't try to make a show of it. He's not seeking attention. His playing is soft and gentle, almost like he's playing just for himself. Yet somehow, everyone around him can feel the emotion in the music. It's not loud, but it's full of meaning. The kind of music that reminds you of things you might have forgotten. The beauty of quiet moments, the power of simple things, and how they can bring people together. When he finishes, there's a moment of stillness. The sound of the guitar fades, and for a second, no one knows exactly what to do. It's not the kind of performance that demands applause, but it has affected everyone in the room, especially the young woman. She's quiet, still lost in the feeling of the music. The server, who has been watching quietly from behind the counter, smiles to herself. She knows that the man's music has done something more than just fill the air. It's made people pause and think, even if just for a moment. The young woman finally looks away from the man, her eyes drifting to her food. But this time, there's a change. She doesn't immediately start criticizing it or dismissing it. Instead, she picks up her fork, takes another bite, and this time it tastes different. It's not just the food, it's her mindset that's shifting. The music has done what words couldn't. It has softened her, if only a little. She starts to realize that maybe she's been too quick to judge, too focused on things that don't really matter. The man stands up, quietly putting the guitar back where he found it, and without a word, he heads for the door. He doesn't need to stay any longer. He's done what he came to do. As he leaves, he doesn't make a fuss or expect anyone to thank him. But as he steps out into the street, there's a sense of quiet satisfaction in the air, as if the world, just for a moment, was a little kinder. The young woman watches him go, her expression thoughtful. She doesn't say anything out loud, but inside, something has changed. She feels lighter somehow, as if the weight of her own attitude has started to lift. The young woman sits still, for a few moments, her mind quietly turning over the events that just unfolded. The cafe is quieter now, the music having faded, but there's still a lingering feeling in the air. It's different from the tension she had created earlier. She glances at her phone again, but doesn't scroll this time. She holds it in her hands, unsure of what to do next. The man who had played the guitar is gone, but the sound of the music lingers in her thoughts. It wasn't just the melody itself, it was the way it had made her feel. For the first time in a while, she had stopped focusing on what was wrong with everything around her. She hadn't even realized it, but her walls had started to come down. The judgmental thoughts she'd carried with her all day, the criticisms of the people around her and the places she visited, they all seemed less important now. The music had made her stop, just for a moment, and breathe. Maria, the server, comes by to check on her. The young woman looks up at her, noticing the tired but gentle smile on the older woman's face. She has seen this kind of smile before. One that doesn't ask for anything. One that gives without expecting anything in return. The young woman hesitates for a moment before speaking. I'm sorry, she says quietly, almost as if the words are unfamiliar to her. I didn't mean to be rude earlier. The server pauses, looking surprised, but she doesn't say anything. She just nods, her smile staying in place. There's no judgment in her eyes, just a quiet understanding. The young woman feels a bit awkward, but she presses on. I guess I was a little harsh. This place isn't so bad. It's actually kind of nice in its own way. She looks down at her plate, then back at the server. Thank you for your patience. Maria's smile deepens, her eyes crinkling at the corners as she nods again. No problem at all, she says softly. We all have our days. You're welcome. The young woman takes a deep breath, feeling an odd sense of relief. It's as if the weight of her previous attitude has started to lift, bit by bit. She doesn't know exactly why or how, but she realizes that something inside her has shifted. The music, the simple kindness from the server. It's all had an effect on her, something that even her usual sharpness couldn't push away. As she finishes her meal in a quieter, more thoughtful state, the cafe feels different to her now. It's still the same place, but she's changed in some way. She feels less superior, less entitled, and somehow she feels more connected to the people around her. The rich, judgmental thoughts she had before seem smaller now, more distant. They don't feel as important as they once did. For the first time in a long while, she feels grateful. Grateful for the quiet moment, for the simple music, and for the reminder that sometimes kindness is all it takes to make a difference. The young woman finishes her meal, but her mind is still caught in the strange calm that the music brought. She sits back in her chair, looking around the cafe, and for the first time since she walked in, she actually takes in the details. The rustic wooden tables, the soft glow of the lights, the simple but warm decorations. It's nothing like the luxurious restaurants she's used to, but there's something comforting about it. The quiet hum of conversation, the clinking of cups and plates. It all feels different now, somehow more real. She looks at the server, who is quietly cleaning the counter, still moving with the same calm, steady pace she had earlier. The woman is no longer just a waitress to her. She's a person, someone who works hard every day, who doesn't seem to get rattled by the sharp words or the cold glances from customers. There's a quiet strength in her that the young woman hadn't noticed before. She thinks back to the harsh comments she'd made earlier, and guilt slowly begins to creep in. How could she have been so quick to judge? So focused on what she didn't like, instead of appreciating what was right in front of her. The young woman stands up and, almost without thinking, walks over to the counter. Maria looks up from the dish she's wiping and smiles politely. But there's something warmer in her smile now, like she can sense that something has shifted. I just wanted to say, the young woman begins, her voice softer than before. I'm sorry for how I acted. I shouldn't have been rude earlier. Maria's smile doesn't change, but her eyes soften. It's all right. We all have our moments, she says kindly, her voice filled with understanding. No harm done. The young woman nods, feeling a bit embarrassed, but also a sense of relief. For the first time in a while, she's not trying to hold up a facade of superiority. She's just being honest, acknowledging that she'd been wrong. The weight of her previous attitude seems to lift a little with each word she says. It's strange how one small moment, an act of kindness, a piece of music, can make her feel like she's been carrying around a heavy burden that she didn't even realize was there. As she turns to leave, she looks around the cafe once more. It's still the same, yet it feels different to her now. The people inside, some chatting quietly, some sipping their drinks, don't seem so distant anymore. She feels, for the first time, like she belongs here in this simple space. She's no longer standing apart, judging and looking for faults. She's just a person, like everyone else. As she walks out the door, there's a small smile on her face. She's not sure what exactly has changed in her, but she knows that she'll never look at the world in quite the same way again. The music, the quiet kindness, the humility she's witnessed, these are things that can't be forgotten, and she realizes they have left a mark on her. Maybe just maybe, she's starting to understand that it's not the things we have, but the way we treat others that really matters. As the young woman steps out of the cafe, the cool breeze hits her face, and she breathes in deeply. The day feels different now. There's a lightness in her step that wasn't there when she walked in. The sharpness, the edge that had colored her thoughts and actions before, has faded. She feels like she's just taken a step back from a version of herself that she doesn't want to be anymore. The world around her hasn't changed. She's still walking down the same street, with the same people going about their day, but somehow everything seems more vivid. The colors of the buildings, the laughter of people talking on the sidewalk, even the distant sound of traffic. Everything feels a little more real. It's like she's seeing the world with new eyes, no longer clouded by the constant search for things to complain about or criticize. She's been so wrapped up in her own world for so long that she hadn't even noticed how disconnected she'd become from the people around her. The simple act of kindness from the server, the unexpected music from the stranger, it's made her realize how important it is to treat others with respect and understanding, not just because it's the right thing to do, but because it makes life richer. In that small cafe, surrounded by people who didn't have much but gave what they could, she found something she didn't expect: peace. The change inside her isn't dramatic, and it doesn't feel like something that can be easily explained. It's more of a quiet shift, something that will stay with her as she moves forward in life. She knows she won't always get it right. No one does. But now, there's a part of her that wants to be better, to be more aware of how she treats others and how her actions can affect the world around her. As she walks down the street, her thoughts drift back to the man who played the guitar. She doesn't know anything about him, and she may never see him again, but his quiet act of kindness had made a world of difference to her. He hadn't done it for recognition or to teach a lesson. He'd simply shared his music, and in doing so, he'd reminded her of something important: that sometimes the smallest actions can have the biggest impact, that a simple moment of connection, a gesture of kindness, can break through the barriers people put up, even when they don't realize it. She doesn't know if she'll ever have the chance to thank him, but she feels grateful nonetheless. For the first time in a while, she's not so concerned with what she doesn't have or what she thinks she's entitled to. Instead, she feels grateful for the simple things: the music, the kindness, the reminder that the world doesn't revolve around her. As the day continues, she carries this new sense of peace with her. It's not something that can be rushed or forced, but a change that will unfold slowly. The young woman walks forward with a little more understanding, a little more patience, and a heart a little more open to the people around her. And though she knows the road ahead won't always be easy, she feels ready to walk it with a lighter spirit, knowing that the simplest acts of kindness can truly make a difference. A mini